So Brian Hartline has been a fundamental part of the Ohio State offensive coaching staff ever since Ryan Day hired him as a full-time wide receivers coach after he spent the 2018 season as the interim wide receivers coach. Along that path, he has produced 5 first-round draft picks and brought in a multitude of 5-star and top 100 recruits along the way. And his time in Columbus is coming to an end. He has officially been hired as South Florida's next head coach. I'm Stephen Means, that's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis. Stefan, from the football side of things, what's the impact for the Buckeyes?
Well, we're about to find out, right? Because I think, Ohio State has a very rich history of receiver play, well before Brian Hartline was a coach and well before Brian Hartline was a player and a receiver at Ohio State. But at the same time, the thing that he's done is taken this to an absolute nuclear level, something that not just Ohio State hasn't seen before, but we haven't seen in college football, maybe at any position, right? We're talking about 4 straight years of having a first-round pick at the position, 5 players in that, right? Because Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were both first-round picks in the same draft, and that's a streak that's going to extend with Carnell Tate this upcoming year, with Jeremiah Smith in 2 years. So we're about to see kind of the chicken or the egg situation of, has the success at receiver been solely a result of Brian Hartline and his recruiting and his development and what he's produced, or is there also an element to this of Brian Hartline will leave, someone will come in, and at the end of the day, this is still Ryan Day's offense, where you're getting elite quarterback play, elite passing attack, a passing attack that's still ahead of its game, or was at least, in the Big Ten a few years ago. Now some teams are starting to catch up, but there is an element to this offense and this place that is, as Ryan Day says, not just one guy, right? Like, it's not just Brian Hartline that's the reason for the success that Ohio State's had at receiver. He's a piece that's helped it, but now we're about to see, how much of this is Ryan Day and his offense in terms of getting receivers to want to come play here. That's kind of the timeline that we're looking at now, of trying to figure out what exactly that means.
And Gillis, obviously, Ohio State, at the time we're recording this video, is still waiting to see whether they're going to sign 5-star receiver Chris Henry Jr. But it goes beyond that. What is, outside of that, because by the time people see this video, he may or may not have already signed. So you've got Jameer Brown coming down the pipeline here. What is the recruiting impact that this could have? Because Brian Hartline, again, no one has recruited at the level he's recruited at.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I think people probably need to, if you're terribly worried about what's going to happen at Ohio State receiver, probably back off the ledge a little bit, right? Like, Ohio State has had anywhere from, solid to good receivers before Brian Hartline got here. This is at another level. So I'm not going to get out here and say, hey guys, don't worry, they'll find somebody just as good as Brian Hartline, because we can't say he's the best at something that he does and then say, well, they hire somebody else, they'll be fine. So there will be a dip. I'm telling you right now, there will be something that dips. Maybe that looks like, Jerquaden Guilford, who at the time of recording this has also not signed. Maybe that looks like, a receiver in the last couple of years, like a JJ or like a Carnell Tate, that doesn't show up at Ohio State. But I think Ohio State receivers, eventually they will bring in somebody good. They will bring in somebody that's talented. Ohio State has brought in good receivers in the past. Like Ted Ginn wasn't recruited by Brian Hartline. You look at some of these receivers, especially even like into the mid-2010s, they had good receivers. It just wasn't to this level where it was every year you have 5 stars. So their receiver recruiting will be fine. I think their receiver recruiting is going to be okay, but there's going to be a dip. And right now, as we talk about this, there's obviously the 26 kids out there. All attention gets turned to 27, and we'll see what happens there. They have 1 commit right now, 5-star Jameer Brown. So it is very much up in the air, but I do not think it's going to just completely crater. But I'm also not going to lie to people and say everything is going to be exactly the same as it was.
Yeah, maybe it will be, right? Because it's your point, Stefan. It is what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Are they getting these receivers because of what Ryan Day and Dwayne Haskins did in 2018 and what they've done since? Or is what has happened since because they were getting the receivers, right? The receivers have been the super weapon for Ohio State, and now the guy who has been bringing in those receivers is gone. How Ryan Day goes about replacing, because he's replacing 2 different jobs now. He's replacing the offensive coordinator and the wide receivers coach. How does he do that? Does he just go get a guy to do that exact same thing? Does he split it up? Chip Kelly doesn't have a job right now. Maybe he brings him back into here, right? But you guys are right. This is Ohio State's the most recession-proof program in college football. More than likely, they are going to be okay. But it is going to be interesting the next time a Chris Henry Jr. or a Jeremiah Smith or a Marvin Harrison Jr. or a Makabuka pops up, when I think we all would have just chalked it up to, as long as Brian Hartline is here, that guy will be here. Now that you no longer have that trump card, what way does that receiver go? That's going to be interesting to watch. But then also how Ryan Day goes about filling that role on his staff. Get the text 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Ohio State trying to juggle a multitude of things this week. It's signing day, signing week, signing period, but also they play an important game on Saturday against Indiana. And go listen to Buckeye Talk wherever you find podcasts. We'll be talking about all those things because for whatever reason, all those things need to be happening at the same time because that's college football. Stefan, Andrew, talk to you guys later.